Welcome back to the continuing episode of Aging Gracefully, a talk show for evergreens. When we are not agile, we become fragile. And when we are not freely mobile, then we are not fully mobile. And I think that's a good way to look at the themes that we're going to look at today: fragility, frailty, and mobility.
Your skeletal muscle talking to you and say, look, I can't climb these steps anymore. I have slowed down. Before I could do so much. Now I'm just not able to do that much. Why do I feel I'm just weak? And when I go to a doctor, he says your blood sugar is fine, your blood pressure is fine, your this is fine. But yet, I am not there what I would like to be.
So we need to address this from young age so that you don't become frail at old age. So like Dr. Pratibha said, nutrition, exercise, relaxation is a very important aspect that we talk about. Now when you talk about frailty, it is not only the body that is affected, even your mind gets affected.
We've looked at frailty, fragility, and mobility in its first part. If you've not seen it yet, please make sure that you watch that as well, so that as we continue into the second part, you will get a better sense, a better feeling of what has already been discussed, and even more, be better enriched with what we will talk today in the second episode of that program. It's interesting, you use the word cerebral atrophy, where the brain cells either wither or die. Now, it could happen to all others, the muscle as well. So like atrophy, I would say, is another way of saying if you don't use it, you will lose it. And I think it's so important that we keep exercising it, whether you said, with mental exercises like crossword, Sudoku, physical exercises that are of all this. And of course, I like the way that you brought in that you must be involved in a social circle, because the more you withdraw, there's a relationship atrophy. You're allowing that to dry as well. And I think to understand physical and cognition is the best way is keep going. I learned an interesting phrase when I was working in counseling. Take your body there, your mind will follow later. Because sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but you need to do it. And in doing so, you allow yourself to come alive in more ways than one. Having looked at both the dimension of physical frailty and cognition frailty, is there something we can do to either slow down or to halt this process?
One of the consequences of this, which we should always worry about old people, is falls. People fall, break their bones, and they become bedridden. All these factors play a role in falling. Nobody just falls there. Your eyes cannot see, so you cannot see the ground how it is. Your inner ear, which is necessary for balance, is lost. So you're shaky. Your sensations in the leg has become weak. Your muscles, which are supposed to support, don't support the body, and you tend to fall and break your bones. So if you have to prevent falls from occurring, people suffering from fractures, you need to do what we have to do. That is, take care, see that the muscles don't atrophy, your hearing is preserved, your eyesight is preserved. And this comes by living a healthy life.
Okay. So I'll take it up from where you said. So we have to have what is called as, discipline. Okay. So there are some things which you have to do and be disciplined in it, which we may not be disciplined when we are young. So when I'm young, I don't need regular exercises. I'm okay. Got it? But as you age, that area you need discipline and understand the importance of exercise, quote unquote. Yeah, I walk. Many people tell me, I walk 2,000 steps, I walk 3,000 steps. That's okay. Okay, there are two types of exercises, what we call. One is aerobic, so which is isometric exercises. That is all right, but if your weight is quite okay, you don't have to walk 1 hour. You will lose even more muscle mass. What we need to do to keep yourself strong is exercise to keep the strength of your muscles intact and increase the strength of your muscles, what we call as isotonic exercises, which is very, very important. Okay. So you have to understand, how do I learn, to increase the strength of my muscles, which I work on. So today, yoga is taken in a big way, which really helps you tone up your muscles, and it's a good exercise where it helps you balance, helps you tone. There are very minimal set of exercises that are there, but then if not, and the yoga is not always sitting down and doing. But what I'm trying to tell you is, you need to change the strategy. Yeah, you walk. You should walk, go out in the fresh air and walk. But also look that your muscle has the same strength and energy. You should be able to climb 4 flights of stairs, which you were able to do again. Many times you can walk, but try climbing steps. Your muscles are not able to handle that. Okay? So you have to have a set of physical exercises which increases your tone of the muscles. For example, you just raise your foot and tighten your muscles and hold it for about 6 seconds, 10 seconds. Then just raise it. You're sitting on a chair, just pretend you're going to get up. So many times a physiotherapist will help you with this type of exercises. So you can have a bit of small weight and just arm up your leg, okay? And then you can also, sort of stretch your leg down and up. So you know exactly. So there are few sets of, to prevent fall. These are called as quadriceps. You have to strengthen this muscles very well. You have to strengthen your back muscles. So for back, actually, you have this chair, and then, you go back and then stretch yourself back. So there are very good exercises which the physiotherapist will help you to understand. So one point, you have to exercise, aerobic fine, but you have to shift also to increase your muscle strength. That's very, very important. Now you're coming to cognition. You have to exercise your brain every day. Just read 2-5 sentences in the newspaper and then close it and say how much you can remember, whether you can remember it at all. Then you do your crossword, you do your Sudoku. You don't like doing crossword, you don't like doing Sudoku, get a snake and ladder and play. It's a wonderful game. So get a snake and ladder and play. Have a Ludo and play with yourself. Get a Scrabble and do it. Or keep 15 things in a plate, look at it and take it inside and then try and list out how it is. Then there are set of exercises. Now it's not only physical gymming, we have what is called as brain gymming. So you go into these exercise set of with this brain gymming, which will make you sharp in your mind. All right. When I'm talking about this, there's one area which really causes frailty, which we don't see, we are completely neglected, but you need to address is your snoring in the night. Okay, that's called as obstructive sleep. So when you may be thin also, so the snoring does not depend on person who has central obesity, but it's more in them. So you snore throughout the night, you have gaps where you hold your breath, and then, you stop breathing. So your brain is now exposed to on and off less oxygen, on and off less oxygen. So at the end, you're not fresh. It affects your muscle strength because oxygen is less there. It affects your brain. So I always say vulnerability can be halted by recognizing, are you snoring too much at night? There are simple things you can do to prevent snoring and ask if it's too much and you're just stopping breathing, deep snore and then you get up and breathe again. That means get checked and see that your airways should keep it. That itself will improve your muscle strength and memory so much. It's such an important aspect, but people are not aware of it. A simple thing you can do if you're snoring is pull up your mattress, keep 2 pillows under the mattress, put the mattress at top and sleep at an angle of 40. So that clears your nose. Next morning you get up, you have enough of muscle strength, you're much clearer in the head. Okay. So we talk of physical exercise and we talk of mental exercise. And one more mental exercise which I told already, learn a new language. Okay, learn Chinese or Japanese. Okay, something new which you have to work on. So learn a new language, walk backwards in exercise, walk in 8. So what you do in the house, you keep things and then you walk 8. Okay? So you walk 8. And now learn a new instrument, which may be difficult. So let's keep that aside. But then change your track every day you're walking. Don't walk the same track. Okay? Today you're walking like this. Next day you turn like that. So you don't have to waste money. But simple, workable, which makes keeps your memory sharp. Okay? So walk 8, walk backwards when you're walking, change your track. Okay? Today you go somewhere else and walk. Be careful of the street dogs. If I comes to scared of the dogs. The same road, the dogs are familiar with you. You go on a new road, they think, who's this guy coming on? So be careful. But change your track and then keep obstacles in your house. Okay? And then work through. Or keep colored papers in the house and then ask somebody to say yellow. So you jump onto the yellow, or green and then jump onto the green. So make these interesting exercises, which is what it's called building up your kinesthetic intelligence. So when you do these things, this and this is coordinated. But every day you go walk around the building, it's like reflex. You're walking and walking and walking, and then somebody comes and then you talk random things. This is not used. You're not sharpening. So you do these things, you're interacting this and this. Right. So, and it's simple things to do. Very, very simple. And the best, Father, I will put as the last is dancing. Huge studies have been done. Dancing has improved strength as well as memory. So take any number you love, all those old giant numbers or whatever, and do whatever steps you want to do, and then innovate your steps, and then plan your dance, and then do the dancing.
Wow.
It is such a simple thing. BMJ has done large studies, and among all, if you take walking, blah, 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 they have put dancing as a highest there to improve your muscle strength as well as memory. And it's not tough at all. All 5 of you join together, have a party and dance. Peps you up. Endorphins are secreted in dancing. Why you should dance and exercise is muscles secrete endorphins. And these endorphins are just like morphine. They give you the kick. And then when you exercise nicely, sleep well also.
Wow.
Okay? So you're a happy person, just listen to some music, you're happy. So with this exercise, listening music, you're acting in your mind also. So all in one. So you can halt. So when you're happy, your autonomic system automatically changes to vagal. So from adrenaline, you're shifting yourself to vagal system. Moment you shift yourself to vagal system, you're calm, you breathe better. When you breathe better, you're calm, your brain knows that your immune cells come up, immunity cells. When your immune cells come up, you don't get any disease, you don't fall ill, you don't keep getting cough and cold. Your muscles are very active. Everything works fine. So, most of an elderly are in the adrenergic state. We are completely stressed. We're worried. Yes, you need regular, but the regular should not get you stressed out. I've not done this, I've not done this. So, you have to come out of that, the strict do's and don'ts, which is going to harm you, and then do which is not going to harm you. Okay? So, you can halt and you can grow younger. So, there's a secret.
Wow.
Okay? And the third, to be very, is nutrition. Have you ever looked into the...
Yes. One more point. She spoke all this, walk barefoot.
Yeah.
Not with shoes. Because if you're walking with 8, figure of 8, reverse walking, walk barefoot. Because that will stimulate your nerves and make your legs more stronger. Than
inside the house.
Inside.
When you're walking...
Not on the road.
Yeah, not on the Be careful you don't have vertigo. So that you need to check first, fall risk and yes. And when you feel the sensation of the, I always tell them also to buy these slippers, which this Paragon, Acu, there's no,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So it gives you that
Acupressure.
acupressure, and that works a lot. I think Dr. Arvind, as a family physician, can take at nutrition, and then I will.
The nutrition induction.
See, you'll have so many advices given saying this is good, that is good. The latest is don't eat anything white. So no rice, no sugar,
No maida.
no maida. Okay, no soda. Yeah, salt. And I always think my grandfather lived up to the age of 100 and he was eating everything that he got. The point is the time they eat and what we are eating, there is a little difference. And in those days, it was always limited amount of food that was available. And now we have excess of food, so we tend to eat more than what they ate. Okay, and second thing that has happened is, we are, like Madam said, we have to be disciplined. People do not have discipline. Eat at any time they feel like eating. And that sets a cycle. Because if you have missed, suppose you don't have a breakfast, the whole morning your hormones are trying to release more sugar, proteins are broken down. And when in the afternoon when you eat, you tend to eat more. So you put on more weight. Okay, so this is a basic simple thing. Eat on fixed times. And I tell that to people, they get very upset, especially if you are a diabetic. Diabetes, you give them, the diabetes is a disease which is caused because you do not have a substance called insulin. And all the medicines that we give try to improve the insulin secretion. God has designed the body in such a way that the minute you eat food, insulin is released. Now we have given medicines, they keep on releasing insulin. They don't synthesize when the food has come. Okay, so what happens is if you have taken the tablets and you have missed your meal, your sugars go down. Because the sugars go down, body secretes hormones to increase the sugar. And the next meal that you have, already your sugar is going high and you eat, again it goes. Okay, then the whole thing goes this way and you tend to put on weight. That is one thing. And second thing is, consistently eat the same amount of food every day. Just because one day you have biryani, you eat so much, another day there's thai sadam, you eat little, it doesn't matter. The same amount of rice. If you are eating 100 grams of rice, eat 100 grams of rice every day. In whatever form, it does not matter. But we always tend to say, oh, that is not this thing, we eat less of that because it's not tasty. Okay. And there's also this myth that only vegetarian food is good. All food created are good for the human body. But the proportion that we use is important. Okay, that is important. And of course, you reduce, there have been any number of studies which have said that salt has to be reduced. And according to WHO, you are supposed to use 5 grams of sodium chloride per day. And with 5 grams of sodium chloride, we cannot have Indian meals. That's a practical problem. If you cannot have it's not, if you eat one idli, it will have more than 5 grams of salt in it. Okay, but that is a recommendation which is given by the WHO. Try to reduce the amount of salt that you have in diet. And in addition to that, we need to eat more of vegetables and fruits. And people will say, what type of vegetable to eat, what type of fruit to eat. It only matters if you are a diabetic. If you are not a diabetic, you can eat any fruit that you want. And for the diabetics, the simple thing is, any fruit when you cut is red in color is good for them. Simple. Eat papaya, eat oranges. Okay, you can eat pomegranate for that. Anything that is white, avoid. Don't eat bananas. Don't eat apples.
Very simple and nice way to put it. Very bad.
So this is what you said. So anything that is colored is good. Anything white is bad when it comes to fruit. Now the question comes is, should we eat egg? Should we eat the yellow of the egg? Should we eat the white of the egg? Because at one time where the talk was the yellow of the egg has high cholesterol, it is bad. But now the American have said eating the whole egg is as good as that. One of the advantages of eating egg is, if you get an egg, you will eat. You will not share it with 100 people. And it can never be adulterated. And somebody cannot put anything in that. It's a whole egg. So it is a good source of protein. It's a high source of protein. Use eggs, the diet. Doesn't matter if you have cholesterol is going up or less. Okay. And similarly with proteins, whether you take vegetable proteins or animal proteins, it does not matter. But you need to have proteins. And there is this question about milk. Should we, as we grow old, should we take milk? And remember, milk is essential. Not only does it give proteins, it also gives calcium, some amount of vitamin D. Okay. Water has to be adequate. At least 2.5 liters of liquids have to be taken in 24 hours for a person.
So I will take it up from what sir said. I think which is the university which teaches them about do's and don'ts of diet is the WhatsApp university. So something comes up, and we cannot challenge that university.
Yeah.
So, and it is anonymous, but people do believe, in that anonymous so much, and they vary the diet so much. The fear is so much. They come with severe depression, and for what? So, as Dr. Rabindra said, I'm going to take a cue from what he said. Look, genetically, your body is used to one kind of food. Now, Keralites have grown up with coconut oil. Continue with that. Just because, US did just grew palm because they grew palm and then they manipulated the study and said palm is good and sunflower is good. We don't have to
Right.
buy them.
Just I don't know what she said about coconut oil. The latest textbook of medicine says coconut oil is good because it contains medium chain fatty acids.
Absolutely. So we have gone and now they say egg is very good.
Oh, very
Okay. So now coconut is supposed to be very good. So I know I will take genetically what you have been eating, continue to eat that. Now Keralites, I don't think there's incidence of MI. It's not there. So why nutrition is very, very important is you have to plan your nutrition, look at the food plate, what we call, as he put it, eat sufficient amount of proteins, whichever form is there, which is very important. Vegetables are very important. So in your food plate, you should have a lot of vegetables, proteins, and then bit of carbohydrates, which is you should eat. If you're eating rice, go ahead. Somebody says chapati, we can't even digest that chapati. And then soya, our system is not made for soya. So you don't eat which you cannot. Continue to eat what you're eating, and then look at your fruit level. So concentrate on adequate proteins and vegetables, which are very, very important in your plate. What you eat. So it is called as the plate. So don't go for this extreme food change, because you will not be able to handle that food change at all. So keep at it. Eat. But one very important point Dr. said is just eat on time. So don't vary your time. Okay. So whether you're diabetic or non-diabetic, I think time should be very, very important. You need good amount of water, but after 7 you hold, because we have prostate and things like that, whole night you'll be getting up, and so you should be able to manage yourself. So we have what is called as a food pyramid. This is very, very important that you need to learn about what diet. And sometimes as we age, we have atrophy of our digestive enzymes also. So I may not, as he said, I may not be able to eat a huge meal. Then I eat small meals at regular intervals where my stomach is able to digest it. Just like we want a lamp to burn for a much longer time, I take a whole oil and put it, it'll just go. What I do is I put just a bit, just a bit. So small frequent meals help the stomach with whatever little digestive enzymes I have, help you to digest it faster. So you can space it up and see what your stomach tells you. It will tell you that, this is, I can handle this. I cannot handle this food anymore. Yes, but the tongue, half the problem in life comes what goes inside and what comes out. So the words spoils everything, relationship and everything, and it spoils what goes in. So both I think we have to control as we age. No? Oh,
It's
our words and our,
What goes in, bit comes out.
yes, absolutely.
So it's interesting how both of you have highlighted elements of, in terms of time, in terms of quantity, in terms of discipline. You know, a good friend of mine, she said to me, to go for a buffet is institutionalized gluttony, because you know there's so much available. You paid the price, you might as well eat as much because it's all over there.
Yeah.
And that can put your whole discipline out of sync, as it were. And I think, thank you for this marvelous exchange and building up, especially when we are dealing with both physical and cognitional frailty. Now I'd like to take you on to oral frailty, and so that we can look at this element, because this is all part of a comprehensive view that we are looking at with regard to frailty.
So we never understand a few things that, my tooth is breaking. Many times I get these patients, they go to the dentist and within a month and a half, all your teeth is pulled off. Okay. Because they said denture, and then the denture is taken and they're not warned what happens when the teeth is completely pulled off. The taste, the saliva, the digestion, they're not warned. And then they think they didn't get the denture after 1.5 months. But in this 1.5 months, their diet completely is taken for a toss. Because they can't chew, there is pain, they go into liquid, and it doesn't suffice, and they lose weight. I have seen people go into physical frailty after dental extraction. So much. And therefore, and then they come back, the denture comes, by then they've lost so much of weight, so the denture doesn't fit. Okay, so the denture was first of all made to help to bite, because maybe your original teeth is not there, but then the denture doesn't fit, so he wears it, they wear it for a party. While eating, they pull it and take it out and keep it. It doesn't serve the purpose. So now we recognize oral frailty and we warn people, protect your teeth. So you must have 80% of your teeth as long as possible. Don't allow it to be pulled out. Okay, it's called 80-20. Don't allow. Try and keep your teeth, because your teeth stimulate salivary secretions. Your teeth helps to digest the food with the initial chewing. Your teeth, because of saliva, gives you the taste. And your teeth keeps your buccal stronger. And when you chew and eat, your energy level also increases. So there is a concept that has come as oral frailty. So now in our comprehensive assessment, we ask, open your mouth. So we become dentists and we look at the teeth and we say, okay, this. We talk to the dentist and we always tell them, if they ask you for extraction, come back to us. Then we discuss with the dentist and we say, no, you're not going to pull off all. You're going to pull to give a gap. We plan nutrition. And then we tell them. But even we don't take your teeth, you have to take care of your teeth. Even if you don't pull out. You should not have infection of the gums, and see that you massage your gums every day and keep it strong. Many of us feel dryness of mouth. I may not be a diabetic, but my salivary secretion drops and my mouth becomes drier and I'm not able to feel the taste. We kind of sometimes lose taste. So when you lose taste, maybe it's B complex deficiency. Now we have what is called as wet mouth has come in. It's a liquid. If somebody complains to my mouth is very dry, advise on this wet mouth. Just 2 drops and it stimulates salivary secretion. So oral cavity health is very, very important to prevent physical frailty. It's an integral part to prevent physical frailty as well as cognitive frailty. So both of it. So all of you look like a teeth strong. Go back home and see that you have that oral. So we have what is called as buccal facial exercises. So we ask patients to, all of you do this. So you will strengthen your buccal thing, makes this strong so that your temporal bones also keep strong. So we have a set of facial exercises, okay, where even your, otherwise you droop, na? So we help to, okay, so keep in that smiling face. So we teach set of facial exercises which helps you to take care of your chewing, give you the strength, And then it prevents small aspirations. As you'll see that for some reason I just get a cough. I start coughing. In the middle of the night, I get up and I cough. So I develop strength of my vocal cords or my facial muscles, so I don't micro aspirations. I avoid that. So set up facial exercises is very much important, which we teach people how to keep your facial muscles also strong. The buccal muscles have to be very strong. So oral cavity and your muscles which you use are very, very critical for aging graceful.
Wonderful. Both of you made some really, really practical points. Like, I would never have thought of what the teeth would have done, and hearing this in the context of, and you're working together with dentists, because the common knowledge people have, is just get it out of the way because it's too troublesome. But I think you've given a perspective that's not yet popular, but yet so related to what people are going through. That leads us, we've covered oral frailty. I think an important aspect, especially in today's world, is social frailty. And maybe that's another thing that you like to take
Being
on.
a family physician, he would have seen loneliness and
In fact, that is described as the new disease, loneliness. And there's a huge book which is written by Vivek Murthy, who was a Surgeon General of America, who says the present generation, the biggest disease that they have is loneliness. And why do people become lonely? Because they don't interact. Now you're so busy looking at your phone. You can see that anywhere. Nobody talks to each other. And it's even I am guilty of it. So that is, they say, oh, you are sitting on the phone and talking, looking at it. How can we talk to you? You put out the phone. Then they'll say, oh, you talk. No, I got a message. Now I have to look into this message. So this is a major issue that makes about loneliness. Other thing that is happening is people have, because of the modern world, or because of what we have at TVs and televisions that we have stopped interacting with other people. How many of you have talked to your neighbor today morning? If I were to ask that question. Okay, so because of this interaction becoming less, we become withdrawn and we keep on looking at the phone so that we don't interact with people. And because of that, all the consequences that we talked about gets carried away. Okay, so it is important that we control the amount of screen time that is spent. And now the best thing is, don't touch your phone 2 hours before you get up, as you get up in the morning, 2 hours before you go to bed. Okay, rest of the day, you will not be using that much of phone because you'll be interacting with people. These are the times when you interact much with phone. And if you cut off the phone just before you go to sleep, you will have a better sleep because you will not hear all the bad things that are happening in this world and disturbing.
yeah, absolutely. I think with all the communication that we are having, we are developing what I call as acquired autism. We are becoming autistic. We are so much withdrawn in the virtual world, and many elderly, you don't have any other entertainment other than look. So what happens? You have a little bit of joint pain. You cannot you're not very confident going out. And this tool has come in, and now we are doing a study of screen time and cognition. See, when you keep on looking at it and listening to it, you stop thinking, and it in the long run, it's going to affect your physical strength. Your knees are going, which we are going to talk next, is mobility. Your knees are going to become bad. Cognitively, you're going to deteriorate quite a bit. And then even because you're not exercising, your lung and everything will not be ready for taking on the challenge. So one is so what is people are sort of escaping loneliness is with the mobile, but that is not the right way to escape. And as I said, today loneliness is because earlier there used to be a community living, and there used to be 3-4 houses all close together, larger families living together. Things have become different now. So, and many people, they don't go out because they are shy to carry a walking stick. I don't want to carry walking stick. People will laugh at me if I take walking stick. So I don't want to go out. Okay. Some, of course, have incontinence. They have to be pushed to wear diapers. So I don't want to go with, I'm not going to go out. Okay. So there are various reasons and I cannot hear. Now, many times I ask, hearing is another thing which pushes you into social frailty. You just withdraw, but you don't go for hearing aid. You feel shy of wearing a hearing aid. You can wear a specs, but why not a hearing aid? Why not carry a stick and walk? So we have some, inhibitions. We're caught up in that. And then people are not there. So there was this story, which I think you all would have also come across this story. This elderly man, I think we are also to be, blamed for that. He goes to this mobile person's and he says, why is my mobile not working? From a long time, there is no ring. Can you check, is my mobile in order? So he checks the mobile and everything. And he says, no, your mobile is perfectly fine. It's working. And he rings, it rings. Then he says, why am I not getting calls from my children? Okay. So then he calls his son. Then he says, no, Papa, I'm very busy now. I'll call you back later. So his mobile did ring. So somewhere peer pressure, things are becoming busy. So but you have to open up yourself. Don't go into the victimization syndrome. Life is different everywhere. Have your own community. Get together active. Come out of it. As I said, have a dancing session. Party yourself. Enjoy yourself. Keep going out. Correct your hearing. So, social health is very, very important and critical because we are going to live 80, 90 anyway. So, live well. So why should anybody exist? We should live life. Let's enjoy ourselves. So understand you yourself can put, or your friends you see, many patients come to me and one word they start crying. Okay. Then you tell them, no, come out of it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. You see what you can do. So we plan one outing and we have gathered them, take them out. So the world is a family. Okay, so that social frailty is, because if you get into that, your mobility gets worsened, you will fall more often, you will fall sick, you will go into dementia. So social interaction is very, very critical and important for aging grace.
I think what is so beautiful, just listening to both of you, is you not only indicate for us what the symptoms are, how it is manifest, but you're also opening windows as to how to address it. Because, I'm sure that some who are watching as you're talking are saying, wow, they're talking about me. Because, you've got your finger on the pulse because as doctors, this is the situation you meet. But you're also opening windows and saying, if you're going to live long, make the best of it. And I think that is so crucial, that's so important, that if God has given us the time of our life, it should really be the time of our life. And I think that and we should make a difference. I'm glad you brought also that other element of not going into the victimization mode. Because, sometimes you can feel terrible, poor me, I'm left on the sidelines. And some people are left. You get sometimes children who are not really responsible children to their parents. But while that is true, how does one have that attitude of openness, of positivity, of being able to go beyond? It's painful, it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Here I would like to say, Father, that we are trying to bring in a concept of intergenerational coordination. So what we are doing is we are going to colleges and asking them few things about their grandparents and this and that. And now our college, we are encouraging them to go to home for the aged and adopt elderly, just like you adopt children. So this was brought up by Tatas and we are putting it. We call it as the, you go and talk to them. Some call it as buddy program or whatever. You call it anything. You interact. And then next to bring about this social is, just the other day I read in Bangalore, there was a job mela for people only above 60, 65. So go, and you're an expert. So go into this job mela, find yourself some work and do some social work and, gather some set of students and teach them. So you can beat social frailty if we mix the two generation, which is a must. So we have to create environment where we have elderly and youth together. So I was managing a home for the aged in Bangalore for a very, very long time till I left. That is Clitus Home for the Aged. They have the beautiful concept of krish. So they had a home for the aged, but they have a krish. So you have these babies and all running around. There's a joy you see there. So that is what will beat the social frailty and get things out.
I think that's the way to go. In fact, in our earlier program when we spoke about home for elders, that was precisely what that sister said. They have children on the campus, they come and interact. So thank you for really taking us, navigating us through this whole issue of frailty, whether it was, we saw at the beginning of physical frailty, cognition, whether we saw oral, and of course social. And more important, having listened to all of that, is what is the way forward and a way out so that we will truly age gracefully.
So I just want to ask the audience, when did you have a hearty laugh? So don't forget to find humor in life. Everything need not be serious. Okay, I can't hear that. Take it as a sense of humor. Today you did something which is not okay. Just learn to be kind to yourself and laugh heartily. So according to me, laughter is the best medicine. So go ahead and have a good laugh. So I'd like to know in audience, in a day, how many of you really have a good laugh? So that's the best medicine I can think, Father.
I think it's a medicine for all, and we don't have to pay a penny for that. It's all for free.
Yeah.
You get that free medicine. We've looked at frailty. We need to take a look at disability and to say what's the difference between disability and frailty.
Many times people think frail means you're disabled. No, you're not disabled. So you don't have to treat yourself as, I am disabled. No, that is not disability. That is, yeah.
So now, disability applies in the physical realm. What about other elements or other aspects of disability?
Doctor, you had spoken about geriatric assessment, and also you had spoken about getting prepared before the problems start. So I would like to know what would be a good age to have these assessments, and where can we go to get these assessments done?
We thus come to the end of this second part of our reflection on aging gracefully, on frailty, fragility and mobility. But again, it's not yet over. We still have another session to go. And so until then, here we are signing off from RMC, the Redemptorist Media Center. God bless us all.